Hi, I'm Justin and welcome back to Just Shaves. For this video, I have a comparison that I've been pretty excited to do for a while now. Really, since I tried both of these two razors, I've been curious which one of them was going to outperform the other in a side-by-side. But we'll be comparing two higher-end aluminum razors. First one's going to be the Aylsworth APEX aluminum, and the second one's going to be the Karve Bison, also made out of aluminum, obviously. Both of these razors I consider to be really top of the food chain quality in terms of aluminum razors. High end at the price point and really just with the machining quality, it really doesn't get much better than either of these two razors. The Aylsworth is going to come in at $69, and you can buy it directly from the Aylsworth website. And I think at that price point, they even ship it for free. I think they have free shipping over $50. So this one will cost you $60 brand new. It has a stand that's optional as well. I forget the dollar amount for that, but I actually have the stand and don't use it. I like it just fine without it. And the Karve Bison, if you order it from the Karve website, they are now carrying these on stock, so I think it's like a 1 week lead time, and this is a relatively new development in the last month or so that Karve was already having some of these razors on hand. This one cost $99 Canadian, and when you convert that to USD, it comes out to be around $70 or so. And then with the shipping, you're looking to pay, I don't know, between $80 to $90 for this. So again, for an aluminum razor, that's actually quite pricey, but the quality, in my opinion, is worth the price. These two razors, in my opinion, have more in common than they have not alike. They both have a somewhat fixed shaving geometry, similar to the Henson, but both of these are not quite as exaggerated as the Henson, where there's more curvature on the top cap and it gives you a little bit more play with angles. Not a ton of play, like there's still like a fixed range that you're shaving with for both of these razors. But those are probably one of the main qualities, is really just that fixed geometry. You can play a little bit with both of these, but not a whole lot. Like if you're trying to use this at an extremely steep angle, you're not going to be able to get the blade engaged. And conversely, if you're going if you're going too shallow, you're not going to get the blade engaged. And if you're going too steep, the blade's not going to be engaged. So both of these razors, if you don't get the angle just right, instead of cutting yourself or hurting yourself, it just won't work. But there is a small window that does work. In terms of the weight, both of these are going to be really similar, and they feel similar in my hand right now as I'm speaking. But Aylsworth is going to come in at 35 grams. The Bison's going to come in at 33.5 grams. I can't pick up on that 1 gram difference. They feel about the same to me. The Aylsworth blade gap is going to be 0.7 millimeters. And then the Bison, I believe, is 0.71. So very similar. Like I think that extra 0.01 is probably negligible. Blade exposure, this one's going to be 0.05 millimeters. This one's going to be 0.06. So on paper, in terms of efficiency, the Bison should have the edge, but again, they're much more in common than not alike. From my memory, and I'll put this to the test right now when I do the side by side, but from my memory, I remember the Aylsworth being a little bit more efficient, yet the Bison I thought was one of the most comfortable razors that I had ever picked up. I don't remember if it shaved quite as closely as the Aylsworth, but the trade-off in comfort, like I thought this was an excellent razor if you're in a little bit of a rush, kind of want an autopilot razor, or if you're recovering from any nicks or irritation, you want to pick up something that's safe, that's not going to hurt you. This was an excellent razor, I thought. Another thing with both of these razors, due to that somewhat fixed geometry, when you're shaving and it's in the correct angle, there's more of the top cap and the base plate touching your skin relative to like a more traditional safety razor. And because of that, if your lather gets too dry, you can get like a drag suction effect. And the best way to combat that is just making sure your lather is really moist. But I noticed that with both of these razors at times I was shaving before. But with that, I'm really curious to see which one of these, at least for myself, I'm going to rank ahead of the other one. Honestly, regardless of what the outcome is, you can't lose with either of these razors. The Bison for quite some time was pretty difficult to get your hands on because they I think they had like a 4-week lead time, sometimes longer than that this past year. Right now, they do have these available with the 1-week lead time. And that was kind of the reason why I jumped on it. Once they became available again, like I wasn't sure if I was going to have an opportunity to get one in this upcoming year, but I ordered one and it arrived in my house in less than a week. So if you're interested in checking this out, this might be one of the sweet spot times for it. The Aylsworth is also made in Canada, but I haven't noticed any weird issues with their supply and demand. Like these seem to be available, and there's other places that buy them as well. I got this one used secondhand and got a pretty good deal for it. So these ones are out there and easier to get your hands on. So with that, I'll pause, I'll get lathered up, and I'm gonna do a true side-by-side with these two razors to see if I can declare a winner for myself. So back in just a second. All right, I'm back and all lathered up. Soap of the day is going to be Macduffs Backcountry Bourbon. John from Stubble Meat Still sent me a sample of it, so here's a lather I have kicked up right here. It's been a lot of fun so far. I mentioned with the two particular razors that they are subject to drag, so I do want to make sure my lather is on the moister, slicker side. Recommendation, if you want to upgrade your shaves for just a few dollars, have a spray bottle handy. I just keep this handy for the times I need to add some moisture to my lather, but I don't want to completely start over. This one is, no name brand I got on Amazon for just a couple bucks. So as my lather starts to get dry, I like just spraying right here a little bit. And also when I'm mixing, I can control how much water is going into my lather. So little pro tip right there. But with that, go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go with the Aylsworth on the right side of my head and then Bison for the left side of my head. Both razors, I have a second use Filoso blade loaded in each of them. With that, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is one of the easier razors I've picked up, especially as an aluminum. Obviously, it works quite well. Lather channels are also pretty large, so rinsing's not an issue at all for the Apex. But finding that angle is just really natural and intuitive with the Apex is probably one of my favorite things about it. It's close to being an autopilot razor as well. And so far in this first pass, no issues with drag or suction. Just kind of pick it up and go. And as I mentioned, like my very first use of this razor, I knew it was something special. Like there wasn't like a rough learning curve for me getting used to it. I just was able to pick it up and go. Okay, some right side done. And I'll switch over to the back of my head really quickly. I'll review the stainless steel plus plate of the Aylsworth in another video, but after having this and liking it as much as I did want to try the stainless steel version. And despite some warnings from people of it not being the same experience as the aluminum, I decided to try it out for myself anyways. And it's an awesome razor, but the added weight and also the added blade gap and exposure makes it not the same razor. Like you might be shaving with the same angle, but there were a few times where it felt very, very smooth and out of nowhere it just bit me. And I don't have those same issues at all with the aluminum version. So far, very easy first pass with the Aylsworth. And a little bit more drag and suction with the Bison. Not enough to interrupt the shave, but coming from the Apex, I can tell there's just more surface contact. So not a negative thing, but it is different from the Apex. Like there's more of the top cap and the base plate touching your skin when the blade's in the correct angle. Overall, still smooth experience. And if anything, the lather on this side of my head is, a couple minutes drier than the Apex had. But this just feels like a very safe razor. I can just pick it up and go at any point. Yeah, slight drag, slight suction sensation. Just especially compared to the Apex just now. I did remember the first time I used this razor, I noticed the suction, but the suctions oddly enough seemed to be pulling the razor into the correct angle. And that was something I'd never experienced before, or could really describe even. But yeah, still, even with the drag suction, very comfortable shave. I'm gonna rinse and get relathered again for the second pass. All right, back for the second pass. I'm gonna keep the Bison on the left side of the head, but I'm gonna start with the first just to give it the benefit of a fresh lather as well. Yeah, I'm still getting a little bit of the drag suction. I think it's just a characteristic of this razor. Not a plus side, not a downside, but just how this razor shaves and the sensation you feel. I do get the impression that this is a razor that, despite how quickly I'm moving or how sharp the blade is I put in here, I don't think it's gonna bite me at any point. And it's certainly not, certainly just isn't true of each and every safety razor I pick up. Okay, back to the Aylsworth for the right side of my head. Okay. Now I am picking up some drag with the Apex now as well. Less so than the Bison, but there's some here as well. And the second pass, it seems to be picking up fewer hairs, but I think that's actually just a reflection of how well it did on the first pass for me. Okay. So quickly relather the back of the head, and this will be the final stretch for both razors. So left side on the with the Bison again. Another thing worth pausing to mention is just with my technique for shaving my head, I always go with the grain for my two passes, really just to minimize the likelihood of my skin getting irritation or ingrown hairs. If you have a different hair and skin type, you might incorporate across the grain or against the grain strokes even. And that's actually worth mentioning because a lot of people that shave against the grain rave about the Bison being one of the best razors out there for it. But just with the way that I shave, how well a razor goes against the grain is not a factor for me because I don't like shaving that direction. But with the grain, this is still working pretty well for me. And I also like having razors with enough efficiency that I can stop after 2 passes because I don't want to have to go over the same spot more times than I need to, because that's just introducing more time that the blade's touching my skin, thus putting me at more risk of irritation and cuts. But really that pass with the Bison just there was kind of uneventful in a good way. Okay, I think we're done. So I'll pause, I'll rinse, and I'll be right back with my final thoughts on this one. All right, all done, final thoughts, and I really hate to do this to you guys, but I think this one was a draw. Like this was a photo finish. Both sides, for all intents and purposes, I got about the same shave closeness. Maybe on the top of my head, the Aylsworth side is a little bit closer, a little bit smoother. But then when I get to the back of my head, I'm noticing more hairs on the Aylsworth side. And I think that was a reflection of me just struggling to find the optimal angle for the back of my head, whereas it wasn't an issue with the Bison. Was able to move quickly with both of them. I think the Bison's a little, like the tiniest bit easier to find the angle, yet the Aylsworth kind of had a little bit more glide to it, just with the geometry of the razor's head. Just a little bit less surface contact, so therefore less drag sensation. But honestly, you can't really go wrong with either of these two razors. Do you need to have both? Like if you already have one, do you desperately need to try the other one? I don't think so. I think you're gonna get very close to the same outcome using either razor. So both of these are winners. Both are, in my opinion, are worth the price. Again, this one, the Aylsworth APEX, costs $69 brand new. They'll also include shipping if you buy it straight from the Aylsworth website. Bison's going to be closer to $70 to $80 US after accounting for the shipping from Canada. So yeah, I'm going to have to call this one a draw. I was just as excited as everyone else to figure out which of these two razors would be better than the other, and maybe there's a time and a place for either of them. So with that, I'm gonna call this one a draw, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks.